So as part of my new mission to share with you what I'm doing in my life to step into a dream life and the life I've really wanted to have after doing loads of the work to strip back all the shit from the past and heal all those wounds and overcome all the dysfunction, which is an ongoing process and will be forever, but I've done a good chunk of it now. So the next bit is to step into the life I really want to live. And I won't go into the big spiel about everything that's behind it. If you want to see that, it's at the start of the last video I shared, where I shared playing the guitar and singing a song. This is me sharing stand-up comedy for the first time, which of all the things I've ever done in life, and I've done a lot of different things over the years before and after doing this transformation work, this was the most nerve-wracking. I first tried it on an open mic about 3 years ago, or maybe 4 years ago now, just before COVID, and I bottled it the first time. I literally stood outside the comedy place and just didn't do it. And then the second time again was shitting myself, but was like, right, I'm going to do it this time. This time round, years later, loads of things derailed me along the way, but I've come back to it. I decided to do a comedy course at Hot Water Comedy at Blackstock in Liverpool, which if anyone's thinking of doing comedy, either for a living or just for a laugh, like, pardon the pun, like just to experience something in your life, I'd highly recommend doing it. It was brilliant. Rob Thomas was the comedian who took us through a 6 week course and helped us write material. And if I'm going to probably keep going with this now and try about some more. My comedy naturally will be old stories and stories about family and friends and my life in the past. But I wanted to try for this to do something different. I wanted to try writing something from scratch, just complete fresh material from scratch. And that's what I did with Rob's help. Wrote a 10-minute set, and then we all got to perform it in front of a small crowd at Blackstock at the end of the 6 weeks. So this is that performance. I'm going to put it on now. I will just say, for those of you who get easily offended by things, remember this is stand-up comedy. Like, and it's this. I've heard so many proper comedians say this. Just because someone says something on the stage doesn't mean they believe it. It's done for comic effect. If you are offended or triggered by anything, that takes us back into the deep work, right? The truth is, anything that offends or triggers us is inside us, and the work needs to be done inside us. Very few things upset me these days and trigger me, and whenever anything does, still, I come back inside me and figure out where it is in me and fix it. So, observe it, watch it, see what you think of it. Let me know in the comments. It's my first go. I'm going to keep going. Or it's my second go, really, but my first proper go. So yeah, let me know what you think.
Hello. Hello. How are we all? Good. Having a good night? Yeah. My opening line's already been fucked up because I was going to say, seeing as you've had so much stand-up comedy, I'm going to start with the presentation. But we've already had 2 musical interludes, so it's turned into a night at the London Palladium. But anyway, I am going to do a presentation, and it's about how the world is fucked and whose fault that is. And the reason is, I think it's important to set expectations. I was watching a video with Stephen Merchant a few weeks ago, for those who don't know, he's the co-writer of one of the most successful British comedies of all time, The Office. And he said the night after the first episode of that great sitcom was launched, he's sitting on a train and he overheard 2 old women speaking. And the first old woman said, "Oh, Mavis, did you see last night that documentary about an office? It was really funny." And Mavis said, "That wasn't a documentary, Barbara. That was meant to be a comedy." And Mavis said, "Well, in that case, it was shit." So I'm thinking, if you're expecting 10 minutes of comedy now, worst case scenario is you'll go home thinking that was rubbish. But if you're expecting a presentation, best case scenario is you get a few laughs. Worst case scenario is you go home, and when you're saying to each other, "What was it like tonight?" you say, "Well, do you know what? The comedians were really good." And I got up in the middle and did a presentation on America. That was all right as well. So, how did we get here? I'm 44, so I'm one of the fellas Rob referred to as being in a midlife crisis. And he is right about that in some senses, but what he doesn't realise is, for you youngsters, the middle-aged people in the room will know this. By the time you get to our age, all the sexual stuff's already been done. The spitting on each other. I keep saying to people, the dirty shit your nan and granddad have done to each other, you don't want to know about. But That's for another day. So yeah, I'm 40. I'm 44. My back's fucked. I've already had one hair transplant, and I'm going bald again, like Wayne Rooney, but without the money and the grannies. I'm on the other side of that hill now, on the long, slippery slope to death. And when you get to this stage of life, it's interesting. You see the different reactions in the room. Like the middle-aged people are like, yeah, we're with you, mate. The young people are like, fucking hell. But when you get to this stage of life, you do start reflecting on things and you look back and you think, the world has changed. It has. It's changed since I was a kid. And the youngsters will always think, you middle-aged and old people, you always say the world was better when you were young. And I've been thinking a lot about this lately, and it's changed a lot since I was a kid. And I was sitting in bed, lying there the other week thinking, I need to figure this out. What's happened? And I've figured it out so you don't have to. Basically, what's happened over the past 5 decades is, for some reason, the Western world has started following America as our cultural leader. And what that's led to is the whole place going mental. To give you some examples, when I was a kid, the only people getting cosmetic surgery were Hollywood actresses. Now we've got Botox, bum lifts and boob jobs from Brighton to Birmingham to Bootle. When I was younger in the 80s and 90s, everybody just accepted that the only people who gave a shit about the gender of babies was the mum and dad. Even by the time you got to the uncles and granddads of that kid, they didn't care. Now, because of America and gender reveal parties, we've got people filming this shit and putting it on the internet like we all care what gender their baby is. But I've started to get my own back on these ones, because whenever I see a gender reveal party, I rock up, and if they've only got 2 balloons, a blue one and a pink one, I go to them, why haven't you got more balloons? There should be 1,000 balloons these days. And how are you deciding what gender your child is? Just by their genitals? You disgust me, you fascist bastards. And obviously, the biggest thing America has given us since I was young is society-wide obesity. Which is funny. It's funny that the biggest laugh I've ever had from that is Rob and Jamie on our course. You were like, that's fucking really funny. The rest of you are like, that's offensive. But anyway, do you know what I did? I'm going to stick with it because I've written it now. A few years ago, my mum was 70, and I thought, being a loving son, I'm gonna make a slideshow from everything from when she was a kid all the way up to the present day. So I put this together, and it was lovely, and everyone I showed to, including her, said, isn't this lovely? And that's what they focused on. But all I could see was how in that 7 decades since she was a kid, how my family had got progressively fatter. And it wasn't just my family. When I looked at the pictures of the beach when they were young, it was like, God, everyone was slim. And then all these years later, when we had the American diet and KFC and McDonald's and Just Eat apps, now the world's turned on its head. Now I can't go anywhere without someone saying to me, you're too thin. You need a pan of scouse in you. And I say to them, I'm not too thin. I'm just trying to stay British. So, where did this all start? I've figured it all out. So, some of you might know this, but America was discovered in 1492. Now, when we say discovered, what we mean is that's when the first white Europeans got there. And they rocked up, and they were like, oh my God, babe, look, we found a new country. It's amazing. And for those of you who don't know, that's a historically accurate impression of Christopher Columbus. So obviously they rock up, they find this land, they completely ignore the Native Americans who were already living there for thousands of years, and then they come home and they say to everyone, we found this place, who wants to move there? And this is the bit no one ever thinks about, right? So you know about Columbus, you know about him finding America, but just think about what happened next. He comes back, he tells everyone about this great new country. And they say, what's it like? And he says, well, we need to get people to move over, obviously. We've got to populate it. And he goes, what's it like? Tell us. Are there any shops? And he goes, no. And they go, are there any pubs? And he says, no. Is there any running water? It's like, no. And he says, actually, it's worse than that. Because you might die on the trip over there. And if you don't, there's a load of fucking angry fellas who don't seem to be too happy about us taking over the place. Now, think about if that's the offer. Which are the people who are going to take up the move? Is it going to be the brightest, most intelligent, most successful Europeans? No, ladies and gents. It's going to be the craziest mongs and retards. That's what we're going to have. I know what some of you are thinking. See, there's a bit of a laugh in there, but a few of you in this room are thinking, Paul, you cannot use language like that in 2024. You can't describe people like that. And I agree with you. I would never dream of saying that about anybody in 2024. But remember, this joke is set in 1492. And back then, that language was progressive. But what I do appreciate this is 2024, so I'm not going to say it again. But what I'm going to say is, from now on, I'm going to call them Yanks, right? And whenever I say Yanks, you just think inside your own heads, mongs and retards. So it won't be me doing the offensive stuff. It'll be you doing it inside your own head. So it's 1492. All the Yanks go over there. And they all breed. And there's loads of Yanks. And they all breed amongst themselves. See, jokes like this really separate an audience. Because you can see the people who are really loving being able to say that inside their own heads. So the Yanks populate. And then for 300 years... And then we get to 1776. And 1776 is when America, as we know it, was founded. Now, to put that in context for you, England, as we know it, was founded in 927. France was founded in 843. And Denmark was founded in 700. So if you think of the world as a big house, and all the countries in it as the family that lives in the house, putting America in charge of what we are and what our culture is like a middle-aged couple putting their 4-year-old son in charge of the home. Now, from that reaction, I can tell some of you have raised a boy, and some of you know what a 4-year-old son is like. Some of you might even be here tonight to get away from one of the beautiful, boisterous bastards. I mean, angels. For those of you who don't know what it's like, I've got a 4-year-old stepson. And I started writing this joke 8 weeks ago when we started this course. And since then, I started it as a joke, and since then, all I can see as I watch my 4-year-old stepson is a little version of America running around our house. Let me give you some examples for those of you who don't know what it's like. Our 4-year-old boy just parades through the house, through everybody else's rooms, not giving a shit what he's doing, not caring what he tramples on, causing chaos wherever he goes. A trail of destruction everywhere. The other week, we had a plumber come around to fix a shower, and our little boy's really curious, so he's in there straight away, and he's talking away to the plumber, and I come in and say to the plumber, "Look, mate, is he all right in here, or is he disturbing you?" And he said to me, "Mate, what harm can he do?" It's like, we'll see. Our little lad, he's there, and he's playing away with his mum's jewellery on the side in the bathroom. And I said, "Listen, you've been told you're not allowed to play with your mum's jewellery. Leave it alone." He said, "I won't, it's fine, it's okay." And I went, "Look, I'll leave you to it." 2 days later, my girlfriend's looking for her earrings, and she finds them, and the backs are missing. And we look at each other and think, we know who this will be. So we go to the 4-year-old and we say, "Hey, where are the backs off your mum's earrings?" And he said, "I know, I put them in the plumber's pocket." You're like, think of that poor bastard. He's gone home, there's a pair of women's backs of her earrings in his pocket, and he's got his missus going to him, "Where the fuck have these earring backs come from? Have you been with one of your sluts again?" And he's like, "No, I promise you, I don't know where they've come from." Chaos and destruction. Obviously, another thing that's already been referenced tonight by Adam is the Americans' love of guns, as we know. They love their phallic-shaped objects. And anyone who's ever known a 4-year-old boy knows that they also love their little phallic-shaped objects. They love walking around, parading them. And they will offer to anybody, who would like to see my willy? We're constantly saying to him, "Put it away, no one wants to see it." I walked in 2 days ago, he's lying with his legs akimbo, no pants on, rolling a lint roller up and down it. And I said to him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm keeping my weapon clean, that's what you're meant to do." But look, on a serious note, we all know some serious incidents with Americans and guns in schools. And we got the call, everyone dreads, parents dread from school a couple of weeks ago. We came down and said, "What's happened?" He said, "He's been getting his willy out." in front of all the other kids. It's not acceptable. And we said, we agree. Got him to one side. We said, look, mate, we've told you, you cannot get your willy out in school. If you keep getting it out, we'll chop it off. And we won't just chop yours off, we'll chop off all the other little boys. And he wasn't very happy at all. We went to school the next day. There's a parade of them. They're having a protest. And they're all walking around up and down the schoolyard going, you will not take away our willies. It is our Second Amendment right. We will show them to whomsoever we like. We have a right to bear willies. Ladies and gents, thanks very much.